Welcome to the weekly roundup of Air News Daily Bulletins, the go-to place to catch up with all the stories that made the news last week.
We start today with Italian flag carrier ITA Airways, who, from the 1st of July, will be operating a daily service from Rome Leonardo da Vinci to Trapani. The carrier will also introduce a twice-weekly service from its Rome hub to Alicante on the 18th of July, followed on the 25th of July by a twice-weekly service between Rome and Mykonos in the Greek islands. On the 3rd of September, the airline will resume operations between Rome and Tripoli. Flights will operate twice weekly. And finally, the carrier will add the Dominican Republic to its network for the first time on the 30th of November, when it introduces an Airbus A330neo service to Santo Domingo from its Rome base, twice weekly through the remainder of the winter timetable. United Airlines has 5 new routes to Europe that are as follows. On the 30th of April, the airline commenced a 3 times per week service between Newark and Split in Croatia. On the 1st of May, it introduced a 4 times weekly service again from Newark to Bari in southern Italy. On the 8th of May, the airline will commence a daily service from Newark to Glasgow in Scotland, and from the 27th of May, services from Newark will also operate thrice weekly to Santiago de Compostela in Spain. And finally, United will start a daily service from Washington Dulles to the Icelandic capital Reykjavik on the 21st of May. FlyOne of Armenia has launched a once-weekly service today between its Yerevan hub and the Russian city of Sochi. Flights are due to operate on Mondays throughout the summer timetable on board the airline's Airbus A320s. Air Arabia launched a 3 times weekly service on the 1st of May between its Abu Dhabi hub and the Jordanian capital, Amman. Flights operate on Wednesdays, Fridays and Sundays using the carrier's A320 family aircraft. Luton-based low-cost operator easyJet has announced a raft of new services for the winter 26-27 timetable. So here goes. On the 25th of October, the airline will introduce a twice-weekly service from Southampton to Paris Charles de Gaulle. On the same day, it will launch twice-weekly services from Belfast International to Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. And on the 26th of October, twice-weekly services from Belfast to Rome. On the same day, the carrier's home base of Luton will see the start of a 3 times weekly service to the Slovenian capital Ljubljana, and London Southend Airport will get its connection to Budapest back twice weekly. The route was previously operated by Stobart Air under its Flybe franchise. The airline's Newcastle base will introduce a twice-weekly service to Fuerteventura on the 25th of October and to Krakow on the 26th of October, and the Icelandic capital Reykjavik on the 27th of October. And finally, the airline will be adding a twice-weekly service between Birmingham and Agadir from the 27th of October. There's a lot going on there, isn't there, hey? South Korean carrier Air Premier introduced a 4 times weekly service on the 24th of April between its Seoul Incheon hub and Washington's Dulles Airport. Flights operate on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays and Sundays using the airline's Boeing 787-9 Dreamliners. Canadian leisure airline Air Transat will be introducing a once-weekly service on the 10th of December between its Montreal hub and Los Cabos in Mexico, followed by a weekly service on the 12th of December from Montreal to Aruba, and on the 13th of December, a twice-weekly service from Montreal to Bridgetown in Barbados. All flights will be flown on the carrier's A321s. LOT Polish Airlines is now offering services between Gdansk and Oslo. Flights commenced on the 29th of April and operate 5 times per week, with only Thursdays and Sundays not having a flight. The airline has also introduced a 3 times weekly service on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Sundays between Gdansk and Bergen. Both Norwegian routes operate on the airline's Boeing 737s. Oman's Salam Air will be introducing, subject to government approval, a twice-weekly service from its Muscat home to the Rwandan capital Kigali, commencing on the 21st of July. Flights will operate on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Chinese carrier Xiamen Air will commence a new twice-weekly service between Fuzhou and Amsterdam starting on the 23rd of June. Flights will operate on Wednesdays and Saturdays, although for the first week of operations it will be a Tuesday and a Saturday. All flights are flown using the airline's 787 Dreamliners. And finally, Air Algérie has announced a twice-weekly flight between its Algiers home and Manchester commencing on the 14th of June, operating on Tuesdays and Thursdays on board the airline's Boeing 737s, becoming the only direct service to Algiers from a UK airport outside of London. That's your routes update for this week, folks. We will be landing with you again tomorrow with our regular news bulletin and look forward to seeing you then. In the meantime, have a great day. See you tomorrow. On Saturday, the General Civil Aviation Authority of the United Arab Emirates confirmed that all flight restrictions imposed as a result of the US and Israeli attacks on Iran had been lifted and that the airspace controlled by the UAE has resumed normal status. This is great news for the region, especially for local carriers Emirates and Etihad, who are both based in the UAE and are now ramping up operations in response. Emirates has already restored 96% of its network, and like Etihad, and for that matter, the other carriers based in the region, the task of rebuilding passenger confidence can now begin in earnest, providing, of course, there is no further escalation against Iran. Following the cessation of operations by ultra-low-cost carrier Spirit Airlines at the weekend, New York-based JetBlue has announced the introduction of 11 new routes from Spirit's home base of Fort Lauderdale. These are Barranquilla in Colombia, Baltimore, Cali in Colombia, Charlotte, North Carolina, Columbus, Ohio, Indianapolis, Nashville in Tennessee, Detroit, Houston, Chicago O'Hare, Ponce in Puerto Rico. The airline has also confirmed that it will match Spirit Airlines' loyalty status for frequent flyers, as well as provide priority employment opportunities for ex-Spirit employees. Go JetBlue. The UK government has introduced emergency measures that allow airlines to cancel or consolidate flights in advance, in response to anticipated jet fuel shortages this summer caused by the ongoing instability in the Middle East. The new measures permit airlines to reduce flight schedules, or in other words cancel flights, or to combine services into fewer flights at least 2 weeks before departure without crucially losing valuable airport slots, which under normal circumstances isn't possible as airlines are obliged to operate a minimum of 80% of their schedule in order to maintain slots. We like this proactive approach by the UK as it means that customers will have at least 14 days in which to make alternative travel arrangements if their flight does get cancelled, assuming that they haven't had their booking moved to a combined service on a given route. German flag carrier Lufthansa has made a number of changes to its European network according to schedule data available via Cirium. The changes come in the face of closing its CityLine subsidiary and the ongoing war against Iran. The following 10 routes have been suspended in May but are currently showing as operating in June. All from Munich to Basel, Geneva, Ljubljana, Rijeka, Stuttgart, Tivat, Trondheim and Wrocław. These destinations will all continue to be served from the carrier's Frankfurt hub. Munich will remain connected to Geneva thanks to Lufthansa Group member Swiss, who will fill the void left by its big brother. In June, the airline will temporarily suspend flights to Glasgow and Skopje. It would appear that for the remainder of the summer timetable, the following destinations will not see a Lufthansa flight at all. They're all from Frankfurt and they go to Bordeaux, Brussels, although Brussels Airlines will continue to operate, Bydgoszcz, Heringsdorf, Katowice, Newcastle, Rzeszów, Stavanger, Stuttgart and Vienna. This level of consolidation is helping the carrier to drive efficiency and save fuel, but will no doubt be unpopular with regular customers. And finally, as we were off air on Friday, we weren't able to bring you two news stories relating to aircraft orders. So firstly, Bangladeshi flag carrier Biman has placed an order with Boeing for 8 787-10 Dreamliners, as well as 2 787-9 Dreamliners and 4 737 MAX 8 aircraft. That's great news for Biman as they renew their fleet. Boeing weren't the only people to benefit from an order, as Airbus announced that China's Southern Airlines had entered into a purchase agreement with the Toulouse-based manufacturer for the supply of 102 Airbus A320neo family aircraft for itself and 35 for its subsidiary Xiamen Airlines. Whilst no engine choice has yet been made, the airlines will be expecting their deliveries between 2028 and 2032. Just in case you were wondering, the deal at book prices for 137 aircraft is currently worth around $2.1 billion US, although you'd like to think that they'll get a bit of a hefty discount for going big in the order department, wouldn't you? I'd like to think so. Thanks for being with us today. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow when we'll be back with more news. In the meantime, stay safe. Bye for now. As airlines work to overcome the global challenge of fuel supply Africa's largest operator, Ethiopian Airlines, has begun receiving its first direct deliveries from Nigeria's Dangote refinery. This will certainly help Ethiopian to mitigate some of its fuel challenges, but may only be a short-term fix. The refinery currently produces around 24 million litres of Jet A1 fuel daily, but most of this, according to Reuters, is being sent to Europe, and analysts believe that they will need to significantly increase production to meet demand, but fears they may not be able to do so. Only time will tell. Qatar Airways Cargo is set to resume dedicated freight services to the Iraqi capital Baghdad from its Doha hub, with the introduction of a weekly service commencing on the 7th of May using its Boeing 777 freighters. The carrier has also confirmed that it will be resuming passenger flights to Iraq from the 10th of May, when it will reintroduce flights to Baghdad, Basra and Erbil. Great news that they're rebuilding the network. French national carrier Air France has confirmed the extension of its suspension of flights to the Middle East, while security and safety concerns about operating to and from the region remain. The extension affects flights from Paris-Charles de Gaulle to Riyadh, which remain suspended until at least the 12th of May, and to Beirut, Dubai and Tel Aviv that remain suspended until at least the 20th of May. As ever with these suspensions, the airline is monitoring the situation and the routes are subject to further changes, so you do need to check with Air France in advance. The UK's main gateway, Heathrow Airport, has reported its first quarter revenues for 2026, which saw a 2.3% increase over the same period for 2025, with a total of $1.14 billion being earned. Aeronautical revenue, that's the money that airports earn from airlines, did experience a 1.4% dip compared to last year. But the airport's chief financial officer, Sally Ding, did state that the airport has delivered a solid start to the year, and we can't disagree, Sally. Almost 19 million people used the Hounslow facility, up by 3.7% from 2025. Staying with airports, hungry international travellers passing through the doors of Brisbane Airport will no doubt be delighted to learn that the Aussie Gateway has unveiled its plans to offer upgraded food and beverage facilities in its international terminal. The enhanced offerings, including a brand new hub christened by the airport the Precinct, which includes local offerings such as Jocelyn's Provisions and Joe's Deli, as well as the deck bar and eatery, and international flavour in the shape of Suva Greek Eats, Asian Street Kitchen, Sol Mexican Eats, as well as sushi kiosks. The project will be completed by the end of 2027, with outlets opening from now until then. I don't know about you, but that's making me feel a bit peckish. And finally, five-star carrier Singapore Airlines has become the latest operator to sign up to Elon Musk's Starlink high-speed satellite Wi-Fi system. The Changi-based airline is set to introduce the broadband technology on its Airbus A350 and A380 aircraft later in the year in a rolling installation program that will see the first Starlink-equipped aircraft entering passenger service in the first quarter of 2027, bringing with it enhanced in-flight connectivity for customers, which will no doubt be very welcome, so long as people don't do a Dom Jolly impression by being loud on their mobile phones. That's all for today. We'll be landing with you again tomorrow, so don't forget to check in with us then. Have a great day. Airbus in Canada are celebrating today as Malaysian low-cost operator AirAsia placed a record-breaking order for 150 A220-300 aircraft yesterday. This marks the largest single ever order received for the A220 and accelerates the production program beyond the 1,000 firm order milestone. This agreement will see AirAsia becoming the launch customer for the aircraft's new cabin configuration of 160 seats, which is being made possible by the introduction of an additional overwing exit on either side of the aircraft. The airline will be joining a growing list of carriers who operate the A220. That's great news, it really is. Frankfurt-based Lufthansa Group has released its first quarter results, and their strategy appears to be holding well for them at the moment, although they warn of potential for reduced fuel availability later in the year, which will impact operations not just for the group's airlines, but every other airline around the globe. The group reported that net income had improved by a very healthy 25% over last year, taking a $1 billion loss to a slightly more respectable loss of $780 million. The group's revenues did improve by 8% to a total of $10.2 billion, and in an ironic twist, the soaring fuel costs have impacted the group's performance, but customer numbers increased thanks to the war against Iran as passengers chose to avoid the Middle East. Perhaps the most sobering outcome of the report is the fact that the group believes that current fuel prices could lead to an additional $2 billion in costs if they remain at inflated prices. Come on, Donald, get negotiating. Air China's cargo division is set to firm up another 4 Airbus A350 freighters by exercising options it acquired through an order for the type last year. The carrier has said that the decision to firm up the option is intended to accelerate the introduction of the aircraft into their fleet to meet growing demand. The original firm order for 6 A350 freighters will see the aircraft joining the carrier between 2029 and 2031, with the additional 4 airframes set to be delivered between 2032 and 33. UK long-haul operator Virgin Atlantic would appear not to be making a return to Dubai for the coming winter season. According to schedule data, the airline's usual winter seasonal route to the UAE will not be returning following its suspension when war broke out against Iran and made operating in the region challenging from a safety perspective. Dubai may not be the only route dropped, as Riyadh and Tel Aviv are not currently showing in the airline's plans for the remainder of this year. What this does mean is that capacity can be used elsewhere in the airline's network to boost frequency. We will of course be keeping a close eye on this to see if anything changes, and we'll let you know. And finally, easyJet CEO Kenton Jarvis issued a further statement yesterday to reassure customers that, in his words, we continue to operate our flights and package holidays as normal and are not making changes or cancellations. He went on to say that the carrier's fuel contractors are continuing to deliver uninterrupted supplies of fuel and that customers should book with confidence, assuming of course that they can afford to do so with the ongoing cost of living challenges. Not all airlines, however, share his optimism, and they too have hedged up to 80% of their summer fuel needs. So whilst there is an awful lot of noise from the media world about fuel, and some airlines are definitely in a better situation than others, put simply, it is a waiting game and constant speculation is doing nothing to help anyone, in my humble opinion. What we need is for Washington, Tehran and Tel Aviv to agree a way ahead that they can all stick to. Fingers crossed. Don't forget that you can get in touch with the show via your favourite socials or via our website, which has additional news and access to our Air News boutique. You can find us at airnewsdaily.tv. Thanks for being with us today. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow. In the meantime, go steady. See you soon. The Emirates Group released its annual report for 2025-26 yesterday, and despite the current challenges that they're dealing with, the group reported a record pre-tax profit of $6.2 billion, enabling it to retain its status as the world's most profitable airline. The first 11 months of the carrier's financial year was a positive one, with strong demand for its services. Unsurprisingly, however, events in late February meant that the final month of their fiscal year was less than peachy. But with things starting to show signs of stability in the region, and with 96% of the airline's operation restored, the group now has the task of regaining customers that have shied away from Dubai since the war began. According to on-time performance data released by Cirium for April, Scandinavian Airlines is once again showing that it can deliver as the airline takes the gong for best European performance, and in a rare double achievement, the all-important global plaudit. In a year that marks the Nordic carrier's 80th anniversary, the focus on delivering consistent dispatch reliability through streamlined turnaround processes is definitely paying dividends. The airline's on-time arrival rate stood at 89.53%, which, given the fact that April was a fairly turbulent month for many carriers, is a great achievement. Kinshasa-based Air Congo has opened reservations on its first ever intercontinental route from its home base to the Belgian capital, Brussels. The 5 times weekly service is scheduled to commence on the 1st of July, with flights being operated on its behalf by its strategic partner, Ethiopian Airlines, using one of their Boeing 787 Dreamliners. Air Congo started operations in 2024 when the government of the Democratic Republic of the Congo partnered with African aviation giant Ethiopian Airlines to secure air services for the Central African state. And they are now working on their plans to grow the carrier's reach not just regionally, but further afield to key intercontinental destinations, and we wish them well. Turkish Cargo has joined Cathay Cargo by introducing an upgraded web portal that brings with it several new tools and improved visibility for cargo bookings, making life for its customers a great deal easier. The enhanced web-based system gives shippers the ability to manage pre-booking, access map-based cargo tracking, view the flight network, evaluate connectivity, as well as compare multiple shipping options for a given consignment. For the untrained eye, this might not seem like a big deal, but in fact, placing more control in the hands of its customers will be a real bonus for freight forwarders, and we're certain they're going to like it. Low-cost member of the Singapore Airlines group, Scoot, has placed an order with Airbus for 11 additional A320neo family aircraft as it looks to expand its regional network to meet growing demand. Deliveries are expected to begin in 2028, and these latest firm orders now brings the carrier's total A320neo family order book to 20 aircraft. And finally, JetX and ITA Istanbul Airport have unveiled what is believed to be the world's largest dedicated VIP terminal at the Turkish Gateway. The new building is designed to welcome international commercial passengers and private jet travellers together in the same space, and offers what the partnership describes as being a private members club atmosphere with seamless, personalised service covering every step of the journey. If you do happen to find yourself in the new facility, do let us know how you get on. That's all for this week, folks. Thanks for being with us. We'll be back with you again on Monday with our usual routes roundup, so make sure you join us then. In the meantime, have a superb weekend wherever and whatever you're up to. See you Monday.
We look forward to seeing you again next week. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe to Air News Daily to stay up to date with all the latest news from the commercial aviation world.